Everyone, this is Aaron from the Car Connection. We're here live in Denver. We're going to talk you through the Volkswagen Tiguan. This is the 2018 Tiguan. This is a brand new car here, and this is Volkswagen's kind of make good on a crossover that it probably needed about 5 years ago. So leave your questions in the comments field, and I'll do my best to answer them as quickly as I can. If I don't have the answer, we'll try and get back to you in the comments, so make sure to check it out later. But yeah, so let's talk about the Tiguan here. This is the 2018 version, and this goes on sale later on this year. I think it's actually within a month or so, so we're getting real close. There's the EPA has rated it, and we'll talk about the EPA rating in a minute. But it's getting close. You might start seeing these on the road. The Atlas is on sale now. And there's a lot of launch editions. I don't know where you guys live, but where I live, there's a lot of launch editions on the road. So as you can see, this takes a lot of styling from the Atlas, which is actually much bigger, but that shouldn't lead you to believe that the new Tiguan is small. The new Tiguan is actually fairly big. Let's talk about it. It's from nose to stem to stern, it's 185 inches, which is fairly long. It's I want to say it's almost a foot longer than the old Tiguan. And what made this kind of interesting was there's two versions of it. There's this one, the long wheelbase version, and then everywhere else in the world gets a shorter wheelbase version, but we don't get that one. We just get the long version. And what that does is that means that it can compete with the Nissan Rogue in offering a really small third row. This does offer a small third row. This particular car does not have the third row in it. The third row is standard on front-wheel drive cars. It's optional on all-wheel drive cars, and this is an all-wheel drive car, so this one hasn't added that option for a third row. As you can see here, it says 4Motion. That's Volkswagen's version of all-wheel drive. And that third row is, again, it's optional. I believe it's $500 optional. And so you can check out, we have a story on the Car Connection right now that includes the pricing breakdown and all the trims. I can run through it here, but be sure to leave any questions that you have, especially about pricing, and I'll do my best to answer them. So like I said, there's an available third row, and that's standard on front-wheel drive cars. Front-wheel drive cars start at $25,345. And that's excluding destination. Destination's $900, so just we'll call it $26,245 for a start. That gets a base S model. Goes up to SE, SEL, and SEL Premium. This is an SE, which is probably going to be the volume model. This is also SE with 4Motion. So this one is $30,380 to start. The option on this is a optional panoramic sunroof, which I'll show you guys inside. And that's the only option that this car has. So let's take a quick walk around. There's only one engine, regardless if you get all-wheel drive or not. It's a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. It's a new engine for Volkswagen, and it runs on a modified combustion cycle called the Budak cycle, which is actually named after the dude who invented the thing. And it's a longer intake stroke. It lets that car, or it somewhat improves fuel efficiency, and we'll talk about fuel efficiency in a minute. Let's take a look inside. Let's see here. So as you can see, it's pretty spacious inside. There's a lot of cubbies. This has a leatherette material that feels actually pretty nice. The seats are nice and comfortable. We can tell you exactly how it feels because we can talk about it right now. There's the panoramic sunroof that we talked about. It's covered with a fabric right now. Let's see if we can turn the car on and maybe open it up for you so you can see it. Like I said, here we're in Denver, Colorado. We're live at Red Rocks, but we're not playing any music because I have no musical talent. So you can see kind of around the cockpit here. This comes with a standard touchscreen, and it's good size. It comes with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and we've been playing around with it. One of the options is Fender audio, or Fender branded premium audio. And I can tell you that if you have the chance, you should probably spring for it, because the regular kind of bass system doesn't sound all that great. It's kind of tinny, and it requires it's not very deep. There's not a whole lot of natural sounds coming from it. There's a head-up driver information display. I believe, like I said, there's an optional virtual cockpit, I believe is what Volkswagen calls it. Is just a cribbed version of Audi's system that replaces those traditional instruments with a digital display. Really cool. It's technology that we liked a lot. If you check out some of our older videos, I think there may have been an Audi A3 video that we did on Motor Authority where we talked all about virtual cockpit. Brandon Turkis walked you through that, and so it's a really nifty feature. Let's talk a little bit about some of the nuts and bolts of this. Like I said, it's a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo. It makes 184 horsepower, 221 pound-feet of torque. It's EPA rated at 22 city, 27 highway, 24 combined for front-wheel drive, 21, 27, 23 for all-wheel drive. I can tell you we figured our own mileage here. We drove about 70 miles in mixed conditions, and we managed 23.7, so right at that combined rating, which is not bad, actually. Obviously, you know, if you don't need all-wheel drive, or if you can get away with a sedan, you're probably going to get better mileage, but for a 3-row capable crossover, that's not bad. We'll turn this off. We've got a couple of USB ports down there. I don't know if you can see those too. That was a big gripe. That was a big gripe about Volkswagens in the past. They didn't have USB ports. They used their own proprietary cable, but they changed that a couple years ago, and that's how it runs CarPlay. Let's hop in the back here. As you can see, we've got a lot of space. We've got 2 rows. Let me move my bag here. And I am a 6'2" guy, which means I'm on the tall side. And I was last driving, so I can tell you with confidence that I've got, let's move the camera over here, got enough room, got plenty of leg room, got several inches actually. So there's plenty of room for adults behind adults. I don't know that I would say that you could go 3 abreast in the back, just because there's not a lot of shoulder room. But if you're looking for 4, works just great. 3 adolescents probably works just great. The rear seat does slide fore and aft. It goes up about, well, we'll call it quite a ways. Goes backward and forward. That's to accommodate a 3rd row. And the 3rd row is actually really, really small. That's for kids only and probably only occasional duty. And that puts you in the league with the Nissan Rogue. Doesn't have a very big 3rd row. The Land Rover Discovery Sport doesn't really have a big 3rd row. So it's not like Volkswagen's missing out on much. Small compact crossovers with 3 rows are still pretty hard to find. And if you do find them, it's usually a pretty cramped 3rd row. We've got a decent sized cargo hold back here, and space saver spare. Full size spare is not available. You can get these do flip down, split. Got a little knob there. These are split folding rear seats, so it actually can be pretty wide open. Let's see if we can adjust the exposure here. You can see cargo opening is actually really big. Despite having tail lights that are mounted to the side there, it's actually a really wide opening. Incredibly useful. Let's go around to the side here. Like I said, we got a lot of cubbies. Internal storage is nice. Glove box. For everybody who wants to party like it's 2003, there is a CD player. It does come equipped with Bluetooth and Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. So physical media is purely optional here, but if you absolutely need it, there it is. Got storage bins. Overall, the fit and finish inside is actually pretty surprisingly well done. There's not a lot of... Like I said, this car is $31,000, which is below the average new car price for a car in America, so it's priced below average, but the interior doesn't really feel below average. It's very clean. It's a very Volkswagen approach. Anything that is cheap is fairly well hidden. That's kind of a strange surface, but it's not a surface that you would normally touch. Same as go with the glove box. Everything that's up here, the instrument panel, the IP, it's actually soft touch, nice. It's got a nice quality feel to it. The doors don't feel tinny when they're closed. So I think Volkswagen fans are going to be surprised that they could put this car together, and it's done about as well as it can to a price. It's not overpowering. That inline 4, or that turbo 4 is a new engine. It's not going to overpower many people, but it is enough power to pass. Like I said, we've been driving it up here in Colorado. We noticed that passing power between 60 and 80 miles an hour when you floor it takes about 10 seconds to accelerate from 60 to 80. Above that, it feels a little out of breath. We will say that the transmission feels a little indecisive. So when you stamp on it, it takes a good couple of seconds to get going to where it needs to go. But we're gonna chalk that up to transmission. Let's take a look under the hood. See all that black plastic. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, if we don't have an answer, we will get back to you as soon as we can. Let's take a look under the hood here. There it is. There's the new engine. And like I said, this is a new engine for Volkswagen. Runs on a different cycle than pretty much anything else. It's a modified Miller cycle, which is called a Budak cycle if you're really interested. But really all it does is it just means that it's trying to eke out all of the miles per gallon from every drop of gas that it can. And like I said, we averaged 23.7 in an all-wheel drive car. That included some highway driving, some off-road driving. You can see we got a little dusty. And stop and go in the city. Not a lot of stop and go in the city, so it's predictably going to be lower than 24 miles per gallon in city driving. But the EPA rates it at 21, and I can say pretty confidently that it's probably going to do that unless it's extreme conditions. It does have start-stop, which a lot of new cars have now, and Volkswagen's system is on par with everybody else. There's not a lot of juddering when the engine comes to life. Other than that, it handles just fine. It's adequate for the class. It's not going to be world beating, but I don't think anything in this segment is. Maybe the Mazda CX-5, but again, Mazda works really hard to make the best handling crossover, and sometimes it's at the expense of other things. But this is pretty soft. This is really sedate, really quiet, not a lot of head toss. The steering is really light, really predictable. Not a lot of gripes with this car. I mean, it's actually, this is our first turns behind the wheel. We drove it off-road in Michigan a while ago, but this is kind of our first on-road exposure, and we can pretty confidently say that this is perfectly on par with the class. Calvin is asking LED headlights and taillights. That's a great question, Calvin. Let me take a look, see if I have that on my cheat sheet. There are LED taillights and LED daytime running lamps. So the headlights, no. And I don't believe that there's an optional LED headlight equipment. But that's a great question, Calvin. And if I find out any differently, I will let you know as soon as I can. There are any other questions out there, be sure to leave them. Otherwise, we'll try and get to them as best that we can. If not, guys, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Read our story at thecarconnection.com. We're going to have a full review here shortly. And thanks for watching. Have a good day.